I'm speaking today in support of H.R. 7023. This bill includes language from my legislation, the Water Quality Criteria Development and Transparency Act. As a member of Congress, I value the input of my constituents. The EPA, however, sees input from stakeholders differently, at least in regard to water quality criteria for the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination Systems permits. EPA claims that these criteria are just guidance, not a final agency action that should require a proper regulatory review process. States can technically adopt different criteria, but the EPA makes this process so burdensome that most states are forced to adopt the EPA guidances. In other words, guidance becomes regulation, and that is the game and end goal of the EPA. The EPA then voluntarily takes comments and feedbacks on these criteria. They have a body that reviews the criteria, an internal science body comprised of bureaucrats. An internal review from its own board is not a real robust review. The language from my bill, the Water Quality Criteria Development and Transparency Act, ensures the development of these criteria would be treated with the same respect as any other regulations, that is, listening to the stakeholders' feedback. The stakeholders are constantly dealing with the new burdens from the EPA. As true experts, they deserve consideration by the EPA. Additionally, in the most limited way possible, the EPA needs to be held accountable through the judicial system. Activists have abused the judicial system for decades. Our stakeholders should have an opportunity to keep the EPA accountable. Personally, I would prefer no new onerous criteria, but career bureaucrats being solely in charge of this criteria should frighten everyone. Feedback from stakeholders ensures that the criteria remain relevant, and EPA must consider the opinions of industry pros, the stakeholders, in making these criteria relevant. All new criteria and new regulations should incorporate their input and their expertise. I urge my colleagues to support this important piece of legislation, and I'll yield back.